Viensouk Keothavong is a retired Laotian-British tennis player. She announced her retirement on July 24, 2013. During her career she won a total of 20 International Tennis Federation singles titles, 8 ITF doubles titles and reached a career-high singles ranking of world number 48. She also reached the semi-finals of 6 international tournaments on the main tour and the semi-finals of 1 premier tournament. Anne was British number 1 at the WTA year-end rankings 5 times and in 2009 became the first British player to make the WTA top 50 since 1993. In April 2001, aged 17, she became the youngest player ever to play in the Fed Cup for Great Britain, and she is second to Virginia Wade's record for most Fed Cup ties played for Great Britain with 39. After her retirement, Keothavong became a member of BT Sport's tennis coverage team, alongside Martina Navratilova and fellow British ex-number 1 Sam Smith. Personal life: Anne Keothavong was born in Hackney in London, to parents who had fled from their war-torn home country of Laos in the 1970s. Her father, Somsak, encouraged her to play short tennis from an early age. Her mother's name is Vathana and she has 2 brothers, James, who is a tennis umpire, and Mark, and a sister, Lena. Keothavong married Andrew Bretherton on February 28, 2015. At the age of 7, Keothavong took up tennis at Hackney Downs and Highbury Fields. Her preferred surface is hard, though she has also enjoyed success on clay, carpet and grass. Career Junior Keothavong played her first match on the Junior ITF Tour in February 1996, at age 12, and her last in August 2001. In singles she won 1 title at the LTA Junior International Tournament at Attribution Abbey where she beat compatriot Elena Baltica in the final. She also reached a total of 3 semi-finals and 10 quarter-finals. In junior doubles she won 1 tournament, the 13th Salik Open, and lost in the final of 2 others, the LTA International Junior Tournament at Attribution Abbey and the 11th Malaysian International Junior Championships. All 3 of these were in 1999 and all 3 were partnering Elena Baltica. 1998 to Euro 2001 Keothavong played her first professional match on the ITF circuit in April 1998, at age 14, when she fell in the first round of qualifying for the $10,000 tournament in Birmingham. That year she played only 2 more matches and lost both of them. She finished the year without a world ranking. During May 1999, Keothavong played in a total of 5 ITF tournaments, with her best result being in the $10,000 event in Sunderland where she won 3 matches to qualify and then reached a second round. In the other 4 events, she either lost in the first round or qualifying stages. Her final ranking of the year was world number 702. In 2000, Keothavong played 10 ITF tournaments, losing in the qualifying stages in round 1 and 3 others, the second round 4 times and the quarter-final in the $50,000 tournament in Cardiff. The other tournament she entered was the qualifying event for Wimbledon, in which she participated courtesy of a wild card. She beat Eva Martinkova in round 1 of qualifying before losing to Yuka Yoshida. She improved her ranking to world number 377. 2001 started well for Keothavong. In her first tournament of the year she won the title by beating compatriot Emily Webley-Smith in the quarter-finals and Elodie Lebescond in the final. She then reached the quarter-finals of her next tournament, the $10,000 event in Tipton. In February she reached the semi-finals in Sutton as a qualifier. She played in the Fed Cup for the first time in April and lost all 3 of her singles rubbers in straight sets. In June she was given wild cards into the qualifying draws for the DFS Classic and the Britannic Asset Management International Championships and the main draw of Wimbledon. She faced Janet Lee in round 1 and lost. In September and October she reached 3 ITF quarter-finals and 1 semi-final. Her world ranking at the end of 2001 was world number 268. 2002 Keothavong's 2002 season started slowly. She played in 13 ITF tournaments and did not pass the second round in any. In June, She was given a wild card into the qualifying draw for the DFS Classic where she lost in round 1. She also attempted to qualify for the Britannic Asset Management International Championships and was again beaten in the first round. She next competed in the main draw of Wimbledon where in the first round, she lost to Virginie Razzano. Immediately after Wimbledon she headed to Felixstowe to participate in a $25,000 ITF tournament where she reached the quarter-finals. In August and September, she reached 4 consecutive ITF finals, winning 3. She won the first in Bath beating Hannah Collin in the final. She was victorious in London when she defeated Yvonne Doyle but lost in the third final in Glasgow to Selma Spa. In Sunderland, her 4th consecutive final of August and September, she won by again beating Hannah Collin. She competed in 3 more $25,000 ITF tournaments that year and reached the semi-finals in 2 of them. Her final ranking of 2002 was world number 233. 2003 The first tournament of 2003 for Keothavong was the qualifying event for the Moorilla Hobart International where she lost to Tiffany Dabke in the first round. Keothavong then headed to the Australian Open in order to attempt to qualify and she again lost in the first round to Sandra Clapp-Paragraph-Sell. After this she headed to the ITF circuit and won the $25,000 event in Belfort by defeating Nathalie Viaduct Copyright-Rin in the final. 2 weeks later she reached the quarter-finals of a $25,000 ITF in Redbridge and the week after that lost in the final of yet another $25,000 ITF in Ostrava. In March she reached the quarter-finals of Reading and in April she headed to Portugal to represent Great Britain in the Fed Cup. She won 2 of her 4 singles rubbers. May saw Keothavong reach the second round of qualifying for the French Open. In her next tournament she reached the semi-finals but had to withdraw before the match. Keothavong did not compete again until mid-June when she was given a wild card into the main draw of the Hastings Direct International where she was defeated by Japanese veteran, Ai Sugiyama. A second consecutive wild card gave her entry into the main draw of Wimbledon where she had to withdraw during her first round match against Katarina Spotnik with the score at 2-6-0 4. After Wimbledon she reached a final round of qualifying for the US Open and lost to Maureen Drake but had no more notable results that year. She finished the year with a singles ranking of world number 177. 2004 began well for Keothavong as she started off by qualifying for the Tier V, Moorilla Hobart International, beating Kana Kampi along the way. In the first round she faced world number 69, Rita Grande, from Italy but was beaten. This was followed by an attempt to qualify for the first Grand Slam of the season, the Australian Open. She was beaten in the first round of qualifying by Stephanie Goulin. In February she reached the quarter-finals of ITF events in Sunderland and St Paul, beaten by Lisa Stansayute and Jill Krabers respectively. The next month she won the 6th ITF title of her career by beating Mashona Washington in the final of the $25,000 event in Reading. In late April and early May, she represented Britain in the Fed Cup and won all 3 of her singles rubbers, but lost her one and only doubles match with partner, Elena Boltica, before going on to lose in the first round of qualifying for the French Open to Kveta Peschke. In the run-up to Wimbledon, Keothavong was given a wild card into the main draw of the DFS Classic where in the first round she faced world number 60, Marta Marrero, who she managed to beat in 3 sets. Keothavong came up against world number 56, Mara Nches Lorenzo in the second round and lost in 3 sets. She headed to the main draw of the Hastings International Direct, a Tier 2 event after Hayes and faced number 8 seed, Magdalena Maliva and was again beaten in 3 sets. A wild card granted Keothavong entry to the main draw of Wimbledon for the 4th consecutive year where she won her first round match, beating Nicole Pratt, the world number 41, in a performance assisted by a rain delay when Keothavong was 3-1 down in the first set. The eventual champion, Maria Sharapova, beat her in the second round. After Wimbledon, Keothavong played in 2 $50,000 ITF event in the United States reaching the second round and won in the quarter-finals in the second, in Lexington where she had to withdraw due to sustaining serious ligament damage with the score at 5-7-3-5. She did not play again that year and finished the year with a ranking of world number 175. 2005 Keothavong recovered well from her injury and returned to action ahead of schedule in March at the $10,000 ITF tournament in Sunderland where she suffered a three-set, first-round defeat by Verdiana Varadi. She then immediately reached three successive $10,000 ITF finals. The first in Bolton and the second two in Bath. She won the first two by beating Veronika Kvikova and Claire Peterson respectively and lost the third to compatriot, Melanie South. The first of the two tournaments in Bath was also the only time Keothavong competed with her sister, Lena, in doubles on the ITF Tour. They reached the quarter-finals together. In late April, Keothavong competed in the Fed Cup and helped Britain avoid relegation from the Africa-Europe Zone Group I by beating Caroline Wozniacki to help Britain beat Denmark. This meant that although they lost ties against Serbia and Montenegro and Slovenia, they avoided a place in the relegation playoffs for another year. In May she reached the semi-finals of a $25,000 ITF event in Monza Wimbledon where she lost to Angelique Kerber. She was then given a wild card into the main draw of the DFS Classic where she lost to Laura Granville in the first round. This was followed by a wild card into the Hastings Direct International Qualifying Tournament where Arantxa Para-Santanjar defeated her in the first round. After this, another wild card allowed Keothavong entry into the main draw of the Wimbledon Championships where she faced Mariana da Alzaliva in the first round and lost in straight sets. After Wimbledon, Keothavong competed on the ITF circuit for the rest of the year and won two more titles. The first was in Nottingham, a $10,000 event, where she beat Karen Paterson in a three-set final, and the second was a $25,000 tournament in Lagos where she defeated Morzek Pikiria to win the title. She also reached one more $25,000 ITF final this year, also in Lagos, where she lost to Petra Sitkovska in three sets. Her year-end ranking for 2005 was world number 239. 2006 Keothavong started her 2006 season by losing in the first round of qualifying for the Brisbane International, the final round of qualifying for the Moorilla Hobart International and the second round of qualifying for the Australian Open. In February, Keothavong returned to Britain and reached the final of the ITF tournament in Jersey where she beat Anna Vrljia to win the title. She then entered the $25,000 ITF tournament in Sunderland where she beat four compatriots: Melanie South, Rebecca Llewellyn, Sarah Coles and Katie O'Brien in straight sets to reach the final where she was beaten by Elise Tamala. Later in February, Keothavong reached the quarter-finals of an ITF tournament in Orange and 1 month later, in March, she reached another ITF final, again $25,000. In April she reached the semi-finals of the $25,000 ITF event in Patras and competed for Great Britain in the Fed Cup where she won one of her three singles rubbers. She qualified for the International de Strasbourg, a Tier 3 tournament, where she lost to Anna Smashnova in the first round. Keothavong competed in four tournaments in June, a $25,000 event in Surbiton, the DFS Classic, the Hastings Direct Championships and Wimbledon. She was beaten by Laura Granville in the semi-finals, Eleni Danililado in round 1, Vera Dushevina in the first round and Carolina Angstrom-Prem in the first round respectively. During her American hard-court season, she reached the quarter-finals of a $50,000 ITF tournament in Lexington where she fell to Camille Pin of France. In August, Keothavong lost in the first round of qualifying for the US Open and followed this up with three consecutive first-round losses in WTA events. She then returned to the ITF circuit playing $25,000 tournaments and won one more title, in par and registered trademark Erev. She also reached two semi-finals and a quarter-final in Jersey. She ended the season with her world ranking at number 168. 2007 The 2007 season began in the same way as the 2006 for Keothavong. She again started her year by falling in qualifying for the WTA events in the Moorilla Hobart International and the Australian Open, In February she reached 2 consecutive ITF semi-finals in Tipton and St. Paul before going on to losing qualifying for the Cellular South Cup and in qualifying for Indian Wells in March. Keothavong again represented her country in the Fed Cup in April and won one of her 3 singles matches. In May she reached the semi-finals of an ITF $25,000 in Antalya and lost in the second round of the French Open qualifying tournament to Mara Emilia Salini. As in 2006, June saw Keothavong lose in the first round of the DFS Classic, the Hastings Direct International and Wimbledon after she was given a wild card into each of these events. Elena Boltica was her conqueror in the Hastings Direct whereas Jelena Jankovia was the victor over Keothavong in Wimbledon. After Wimbledon Keothavong reached 2 consecutive finals of $50,000 ITFs in Lexington and Vancouver, facing star copyright Fanny Dubois in the finals of both and winning once. Following this she lost in qualifying for the Rogers Cup, the US Open in Bali before going on to reach her first ever WTA Tour semi-final in the Sunfeast Open, a Tier 3 tournament held in Kolkata. She did this by defeating Sara Errani in the first round, Sunitha Rao in round 2 and Spiao Zyla in the quarter-finals. She lost to Maria Karatseval in the semi-finals. In October she reached the quarter-finals of the $25,000 ITF in Rockhampton and her year-ending singles ranking was world number 122. 2008 Keothavong's 2008 campaign began when Keothavong failed to qualify for the Tier 2 tournament, the Medibank International. She then attempted to qualify for the Australian Open and won her first match against Georgina Crivero before losing her second to Monica Niculescu. February saw her join compatriots, Melanie South, Katie O'Brien and Elena Boltica, to represent Britain in the Fed Cup. Despite Keothavong winning each of her 3 singles matches in the round-robin stage, Britain was forced to fight relegation from the Europe-Africa Group I by playing Portugal. They won 2-0 thanks to yet another victory in singles from Keothavong and a singles victory from O'Brien. For the remainder of February, Keothavong competed on the ITF circuit and reached the quarter-finals of a $25,000 event in Stockholm and won a $25,000 title in Capello. In early April she lost in the final of a $50,000 ITF. This one in Patras where Magdala copyright Narabirikova defeated her in straight sets. Continuing competition on the ITF Tour, she won a $50,000 ITF in Jauni, Lebanon, despite breakouts of fighting between Shia and Hezbollah militia less than 10 miles away in Beirut. This tournament win propelled Keothavong into the top 100 for the first time in her career and guaranteed her a place in the main draw of Wimbledon for the first time in her career. The first time a British woman had entered Wimbledon on merit since 1999. She then fell in the first round of qualifying for the French Open before reaching another $50,000 ITF final. In the run-up to Wimbledon, Keothavong lost in the first round of the DFS Classic to Katerina Bondarenko and in the first round of the Ordina Open to Sara Errani. In her first round match in Wimbledon, she faced American, Vania King, and lost the first set. She regrouped during a toilet break at the end of the first set and came back to win the match in 3 sets despite being 2-0 down in the deciding set. She then lost to the eventual champion, Venus Williams, in the second round. After Wimbledon Keothavong made a successful start to her American hard-court season by winning 3 matches to qualify for the Tier 2 event in Stanford. She then defeated Sania Mdsa in the first round before giving Marion Bartoli a tough time in round 2 in a match which she eventually lost in 3 tight sets. In August she entered the US Open for the first time in her career and faced Alexa Glach in round 1. She won the match and then went on to beat Francesca Iavone in the second round in 3 sets. However number 5 seed, Elena Dementieva, proved too much for Keothavong in the third round. Keothavong lost. After the US Open, Keothavong won 2 more ITF events, Barnstaple and Craig W, and as a result, her year-end ranking was world number 61. 2009 Keothavong began her 2009 season by launching her official website, www.unikeothavong.co.uk, before heading to the ASB Classic where she reached the semi-finals. En route she defeated Maya Jana Luia, number 8 seed Carla Suarez Navarro and Amy Morita before falling in a 3-hour, 3-set battle to Elena Vesnina. This was only the second time in her career that she reached the semi-finals of a WTA Tour event. Keothavong then competed in the Moorilla Hobart International where she faced a tough draw in round 1 against world number 25, Agnes Sarve. Nevertheless, Keothavong came through without too much difficulty, beating Sarve in 2 sets. She lost to Virginie Razzano in the second round. Keothavong then headed to the main draw of the Australian Open for the first time in her career where she came up against Anna Shakhvtadze, who was the 17th seed. She lost in a controversial match where a mistake by the umpire allowed Shakhvtadze to serve first in the final set, an advantage which should have gone to Keothavong. Keothavong was the 4th seed in her next tournament, the Cellular South Cup, and she followed up on this seeding by reaching the semi-finals of a WTA event for the second time in 2009. She defeated Maria Elena Cameron, Michelle Larcher de Brito and number 5 seed Marina Erakovic on the way to being demolished by top seed Caroline Wozniacki in the semi-finals. Despite this crashing defeat, a semi-final run was enough to help Keothavong make the hop from world number 52 to world number 48, her debut in the top 50. Keothavong then endured 3 consecutive first-round defeats in the BNP Paribas Open, the Sony Ericsson Open and a $100,000 ITF tournament in Toohout, Belgium, where she was forced to retire due to a viral illness. Following this, Keothavong began her clay court season by defeating Marit Ainai to reach the second round of the Grand Prix SAR La Princesse Lallemriam where she was defeated by Lourdes Dormanoise Lino. This was followed by another first-round defeat in a premier event in the Internazionale BNL d'Italia, this one at the hands of Carla Suarez Navarro. In the Mutua Madrileña ± a Madrid Open she beat Mariana Duque Marino in round 1 before losing to Lucy Angstrom a so unregistered trademark over in the second round. In her very next tournament she reached the 4th WTA Tour semi-final of her career and her 3rd in 2009 in the Warsaw Open. She faced number 7 seed, Bethany Matk-Sands, in round 1, American veteran Jill Krabers in the second round, qualifier Iona Raluca Alaru in the quarter-finals and was beaten by 8th seed Ilona Bondarenko in the semi-finals. Nevertheless, in reaching the semi-finals she became the first British woman to reach the semi-finals of a WTA clay court event since Jo Durie reached the semis of the 1983 French Open, 26 years before. She then came up against reigning world number 1, Dinara Safina, in the first round of the French Open and endured the dreaded double bagel, when she was defeated, 0-6 0-6. Keothavong began her grass court season on home turf with a victory over Sofia Lovitzson in the first round of the Aigan Classic before losing to eventual semi-finalist, Sania Mtsa, in round 2. She was then defeated in the first round of the Aigan International by world number 28, Sybil Bama, but saw off a mugger in central London who tried to snatch her handbag before heading to Wimbledon, where she experienced a first-round loss to world number 80, Patricia Mayer. After this, Keothavong played the Bank of the West Classic in Stanford, California, where she lost in the opening round of the singles to Elena Dementieva. Keothavong also played in the doubles with Amy Morita against Julie Coyne and Marie-Eve Pelletier, trailing for a Euro 6-5 a Euro 3 when she attempted to run down a drop shot and, in trying to avoid a collision with the net post, suffered a serious knee injury, rupturing her left anterior cruciate ligament and meniscus, a similar injury to the one she suffered in 2004 in her right knee. This injury ended Keothavong's year and as a result, her year-end ranking dropped to world number 84. 2010 After 6 months out of action due to her knee injury, Keothavong returned to competitive action in February 2010 at the Fed Cup. She faced Patricia Mayer of Austria in her first match back and was beaten in straight sets. She partnered Sarah Borwell to take on Mayer and Yvonne Meyerberger in the doubles and again lost in straight sets. However, Keothavong did manage to claim victory in her other 2 singles ties against players from Belarus and the Netherlands. Keothavong then returned to the tour at the Dow Corning Tennis Classic in Michigan, USA in the 100K event. Keothavong battled past Croatia's Ivana Lisjak in 3 sets before only dropping 2 games in a drubbing of Dana Ilado of Greece. She then faced Marta Domakowska of Poland and went down in 3 sets after she won the first. At the Cellular South Cup in Memphis, Keothavong reached the semi-finals, on her return to the main tour. By defeating Christina Baroi, Michelle Larcher de Brito, and Carolina Angstrom-Prem in 3 impressive wins, all in straight sets. She then fell in 3 sets to Sofia Lovitzin in the semi-finals. After battling back from a set-down loss, she lost the decider. Keothavong then competed in 2 premier tournaments, the BNP Paribas Open in Indian Wells and Sony Ericsson Open in Miami. Keothavong crashed out in R1 in both tournaments. To Anna Shakhvtadze of Russia in 3 sets after winning the first to continue her losing record against her in Indian Wells. And in sad circumstances in Miami as she lost in straight sets to Tamira Pasek and said afterwards, frankly, tennis didn't unregistered trademark T seemed that important today after receiving news before the match that her grandmother had died. Less than a week after her loss in Miami, Keothavong bounced back in a 75K event in Monza Cubden, Spain. She reached the quarter-finals after beating 2 Asian players, Yurika Sama of Japan in straight sets and Thailand's Tamarine Tanazagan in 3 after losing a tight first set. She bowed out to Maria Elena Cameron of Italy in straight sets. Keothavong then moved on to Torhout, Belgium for a 50K event. She made it to the semi-finals after taking out Shapatova of Georgia, Ukraine's Kristina Antonisiuk and Canada's Vala copyright R copyright Yult in straight sets. In the semis she faced another Canadian, Rebecca Marino. Keothavong lost. At Wimbledon she was defeated in the first round by Anastasia Rodionova. Keothavong entered the 2010 Luxembourg Open using a protected ranking and reached the semi-finals after beating Virginie Razzano, Patti Schneider and Evita Beniova, but was beaten by Roberta Vinci, preventing Keothavong from making her first WTA Tour final. 2011 . At the beginning of the year in Australia, Keothavong reached the second round of the 2011 ASB Classic in Auckland, losing to Katerina Bondarenko 5-7, 3-6 and the second round of the 2011 Australian Open, where she qualified, losing to 30th seed Andrea Petkovic 6-2, 5-7, 0-6. Keothavong then played several ITF circuit events with limited success. She then entered the second Grand Slam event of the year, the 2011 French Open, but lost a closely fought match in the first round to Vesna Delonce 6-3, 6-7, 5, 4-6. Keothavong then moved on to grass in her home country and won a round at the $100,000 ITF event in Nottingham before losing to star copyright Fanny Dubois. At Eastbourne, Keothavong entered the qualifying round, defeating 8th seed Eliza copyright Cornet 6-4, 6-2 and Sarana Carr registered trademark RSTEA 6-3, 6-3 before losing in the final round to Maya Jana Luaia 5-7, 1-6. At the 2011 Wimbledon Championships, Keothavong defeated fellow Briton Naomi Brody in the first round 6-2, 6-4 before losing in the second round to number 8 seed and eventual champion Petra Kvitova. Keothavong had little success during the U.S. Hard Court Series, but the majority of her successes for 2011 came during the European Hard Court Series towards the end of the year. Keothavong qualified and reached the second round of the 2011 Generali Ladies Linz, losing a close match to number 3 seed Jelena Jankovia 6-3, 2-6, 1-6. Keothavong then qualified again and this time reached the semi-finals of the 2011 BGL Luxembourg Open, defeating Ana Ivanovic 6-3, 6-2 along the way before losing a close match to Monica Niculescu 5-7, 6-4, 3-6. Keothavong then won back-to-back ITF events. She won the $75,000 event in Barnstaple, defeating Marta Domakowska in the final 6-1, 6-3 and she also won the doubles event with Eva Pnarova. She then won the singles title in the $50,000 event in Ismaning, defeating Yvonne Meyerberger in the final 6-3, 1-6, 6-2 and again winning the doubles title as well, this time with Key Burtons. 2012 Keothavong played her first event of the 2012 season at the 2012 ASB Classic in Auckland where she is the top seed in the qualifying tournament. She defeated Australian wildcard Emily Fanning 6-3, 6-4 in the first round, and followed this with a 6-3, 6-3 victory over Varvara Lepchenko of USA. In the third round Keothavong lost 6-1, 6-4 to Jamie Hampton of USA. Keothavong went straight into the main draw at the 2012 Australian Open, but had to retire due to illness from her first round match after losing the first set to Mona Bothell. Keothavong was selected for the GB Federation Cup team to play in the Europe-Africa Group 1 match at Eilat, Israel on 1 February 4, 2012. In the group stages she played singles, defeating opponents from Portugal and Israel in the group stages but losing to the Netherlands. The team qualified for a playoff against Austria in which Keothavong beat Patricia Merakliotna 7-6, 6-3 and Great Britain 1-2-0 to secure a place in the World Group 2 playoff to be held in April 2012. Keothavong lost in straight sets in the first round of the 2012 French Open. In Wimbledon 2012, Keothavong lost her second round match against Sarah Errani, 1-6, 1-6. At the 2012 Summer Olympics, she was knocked out in the first round by Karolina Sayaki, and she and teammate Elena Boltica were also knocked out in the first round of the women's doubles. 2013 Keothavong made a disappointing start to 2013, losing in the first round qualifier in the Australian Open, losing to Grace Min. Despite this, she was still named in the Great Britain Fed Cup team alongside Laura Robson, Heather Watson and Johanna Konta to face Portugal, Hungary and Bosnia. Keothavong reached her first WTA final when she and doubles partner Valeria Savadnik surprisingly reached the doubles final of the Brazil Tennis Cup. They were finally beaten by top seeds Annabelle Medina Garrigues and Yaroslava Shvedova, 0-6, 4-6. She played her final match of her career at the 2013 Wimbledon Championships. She lost in the first round to Spanish teenager Garbine Muguruza by the scoreline of 4-6-0-6. Retirement On July 24, she announced her retirement from professional tennis. The 29-year-old, who reached a career-high ranking of 48 4 years ago, is joining BT Sport as part of their team to cover the WTA Tour. Keothavong says, "I have given my decision a lot of thought and I believe this is the right time to move on to the next stage of my career." Playing style, Keothavong's greatest strength is her powerful forehand which she uses to try to dominate play from the baseline and she adds as much top spin as possible to increase the probability of the ball landing in court. As well as her forehand, she can rely on her first serve to get her some easy points as she often has a high first serve percentage and usually wins the majority of points on her first serve. She rarely has a match where she serves no aces at all, and in her second round match at the 2008 US Open she served a total of 7 aces. WTA Career Finals Doubles ITF Career Finals Singles Doubles Performance timelines, Key, 1 tournament. Or reached final. Semi-final. Quarter-final. Round 4, 3, 2, 1. Competed at a round-robin stage. Lost in qualification round. Absent from tournament event. Played in a Davis Cup/Fed Cup zonal group or playoff. Won a bronze, silver or gold medal at the Olympics. A downgraded Masters Series/1000 tournament. Or a tournament that was not held in a given year. To avoid confusion and double counting, these charts are updated either at the conclusion of a tournament, or when the player's participation in the tournament has ended. Singles doubles mixed doubles Fed Cup References. External links Anne Keothavong at the Women's Tennis Association, Anne Keothavong at the Fed Cup, Anne Keothavong at the International Tennis Federation, Anne Keothavong at the International Tennis Federation Junior Profile, Anne Keothavong on Twitter.